Hi, I'm Mason Duchatschek,
I'm Mich Hancock.
and we have been taking a look at some different articles and various topics and discussing them offline, and decided we'd bring some of those conversations online, and hopefully some of the ideas and perspectives that we have will be helpful to some of you who are watching or listening today.
Exactly.
And one of the articles that I came across recently was in Home Care Magazine, and it was an article written by David Wilkins, and it's called How to Develop Leaders for Better Employee Retention. And although this article was focused on the home care industry, I thought a lot of the comments in this article were applicable across multiple industry lines, and I just thought there were some relevant things to discuss. Right. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but I'll give you kind of a heads up on this, Mish. Basically what he was talking about early on is when it comes to retention, that anytime there's change in an organization, that whether it's because someone leaves or they take another position within the company, that requires that the company sources, hires and trains a new replacement, and that's expensive and it's time consuming.
Right.
And it's also disruptive in that it disrupts workflow. It unsettles your clients, and often creates a bunch of unnecessary expenses for the employer. So one of the things that I found interesting was he said while 89% of the organizations cite retention as one of their key strategic imperatives, only 36% say they have a formal retention strategy in place. So that's one of the things that caught my attention about this particular article is, and why I thought we would do a discussion on it, because obviously there's a bunch of people that say it's important, and a bunch of people haven't done it yet.
They're not doing anything about it.
Or maybe they're thinking about it, but I think the key word is they don't have a formal strategic plan in place. So I think, and I could be wrong, happens from time to time, but I think one of the reasons they don't have one is because they really don't have an idea what that should look like.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's really important to us, what do we do with
right.
this?
Right, we want our employees engaged, but how do we do that?
Exactly.
So, like it was a Stephen Covey, I think, that once said, begin with the end in mind. So what does the end look like for you? Well, I'm a fan of Colin's work in his book, Good to Great, where he talked about the importance of getting the right people on the bus and into the right seats.
Right. That's definitely going to help.
So, what does that look like? Number one, I would say, assess your existing staff, find what you have. 2, assess the existing roles, find out what they require.
Right.
So you have an idea of who's on your bus, what the seats look like.
Right.
Have a system in place to help you compare person to the different roles, and then make sure everyone's trained and congruent on how to utilize this data to make better decisions faster. And one of the things that he talked about in this article was, developing leaders. Sometimes it's not always easy just to go find one. I had an old boss one time that told me the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Right.
I'm not so sure you can apply that same level of thinking to your leaders.
Well,
best way
to
create them.
Develop them. Look at your workforce. You could have leaders right there in front of you that you could be developing.
And if they're subject matter experts, and they know your industry, and they know your business, and they know your company culture and whatnot, and they have all this institutional knowledge.
It's a lot of value there.
A lot of value, and
don't want to get rid of that.
If you can find people who have the capacity to step up, one, because they're subject matter experts, and 2, because they're suited for that. The job allows them to be who they are. You're better off. So, some of the key metrics that he talked about also. So basically, he said, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So one of the things he said was identify future leaders with assessment tools and create career paths that are based on their goals and strengths and your organization's needs. I think all 3 of those are important.
Exactly.
Great to have the organization's needs, but if the organization's needs are they're not congruent with what that person wants out of a job, then
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work long term.
You're not well matched.
Correct. So, how can you take a look at what roles someone is in now and what roles they could be in the future, making sure that, again, I really says that it's based on the individual's goals and their strengths. So it's what they want to do, what they like to do, and what they're good at,
right?
And what they want to accomplish, and then also making sure that's congruent with the organization's need. So I think it's also mentioned leadership plans tailored to employees' current roles and future plans will help them attain their goals and foster retention. And I think he said a mouthful there in this article, because when you have a person and they realize, yes, I'm doing this. Let's say you work at my company.
Okay.
And, you're doing a good job, and that's great. But if I want to keep her retention, then I believe it's important for me to be able to create in your mind a vision that this is just, you're auditioning for the next step and the next step and the next step.
And that's what I want. Like, that ahead. Like, I'm like, well, I'm really hoping to grow with the company. I'm looking to do the following things, And so then you're like, all right, well, let's work on this together. Because if that doesn't happen, what am I going to do?
Right.
I'm going to go look elsewhere
Exactly.
for the opportunity.
And what this allows me to do as an employer, it gives me the challenge of laying out for you, hey, look, here's the kind of career path that we think you're suited for.
Exactly.
And it's in alignment with what you want. So I'm going to provide you with these additional roles and responsibilities and training and things to develop you so that when this next position becomes available, that you're ready for it beginning on day one.
Exactly.
So it's almost like I've got not to use a sports analogy, but I'm going to use a sports analogy. It's like I'm building my own farm team inside.
There you go.
And I'm looking ahead to the needs of the company and roles down the road and saying, how can I prepare people now who are doing a good job in their existing role, but also giving them the training, the knowledge, the expertise, the experience, and the perspectives to be able to handle the next one.
Exactly.
And I want to know in advance before I put you on a path, though, which is one of the things he's talking about in the assessments in this article, is that I am investing in you with an end in mind.
Exactly.
And that end, I already know you're a good fit for based on those three things. You match the job gives you what you want and utilizes what you're good at.
Right.
So I thought that was cool. Also, talked about in the article, he talked about how when employers invest in folks, those folks tend to feel some sense of obligation and responsibility to like, well, they're investing in me, so I want to stick around.
Well, right. And that they're part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so right, it's not just like, oh, you're here and we don't really care. It's like, we really do care that you're here. We find value in you, which is a big part of being human. You want people to find value in you.
Sure.
And we find value in you so much that we are looking at you to become a leader in our company.
It's one thing for as an employer to an employee to say that, hey, you're important, we see these other roles, but to actually demonstrate it by, and one of the things this guy's talking about assessments was like, look, Mich, you're an employee. We have assessed you. We have assessed these different roles. We know what you bring to the table. We know that you're good at this stuff. We know that you like doing that stuff. And here are some roles that allow you to do what you do best and like to do most. And so when I ask you, hey, I need you to take on this project, I'm trying to give you the experience you need to prepare you so when that role opens up, we can slide you in. I'm not
so it's like you're training them as well.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
But it's one thing for me to tell you I'm doing that, but it's another to actually do it and show you, because then you realize, wow,
this is really going to happen.
This is really happening. This is not lip service.
No reason for me to look outside. I'm going to get to do what I want to do. I'm in the right place.
And it's also sending you a message. If I say, hey, Mich, you know what? We've assessed you. We've assessed these other roles, and here's the roles we think you match for. I'm trying to demonstrate with my actions, not just my words, that
I care about you as a person and what you want to do, as well as what we need from you. It's the win-win thing.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when I'm telling you, hey, look, this is what the job requires. This is what makes you a solid employee. This is what makes you a skilled employee. This is what makes you a valuable employee. And look, what you want and what this job requires, it's a good match.
Exactly.
It's self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you're really cut out for this type of work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be investing in these resources and tools in you, and I wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
And that's the person you want to hire. You want to hire that person that you know is going to grow with your company.
Right, and when you're an existing employee, I want to show you career paths inside it, because if someone above you goes on to another company or another role, then again, my ability to source for that job is internal.
Right, and then you're not like you're not like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, who's going to fill that, or what are we going to do? It's like you've already groomed the next person for that position.
Correct. And he even talks in this article, the author even talks about some of the challenges and the key metrics are time to fill. Time to fill, quality of care, they refer to care, I'd say performance, and then turnover.
Right.
Well, those are easy to measure. I mean, time to fill, how long has this position been open? Well, you know what? Here's one of the things I know. I know that if I've gone into a company and I've assessed existing staff and I've built models of what it takes to be successful based on our top performers, and I've got a system that manages that, I can go into my system and say, hey, who do I have in my system that matches this job?
Right.
85 or better, or 90 or better, being an excellent fit. Not getting hung up on numbers, but the point is, good fit.
Right.
The system pulls it up, and now all of a sudden, what used to take weeks or months now takes a matter of seconds. And I have a short list of people internally who match demands that job.
So just like in sales, we want to have our sales pipeline.
Yes.
He talks in here about you want your talent pipeline.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're doing. You're building your talent pipeline so that when you have those positions to fill, you've got people just ready to step right in there.
Time to fill is minimum, and sometimes you may be able, if you do it right, you may be able to have people prepared to the point that they may actually come in and do a better job than the person that left, and that would ultimately be the goal.
There you go.
So, every time the company's made, you're improving.
Constantly improving. Yes.
So, but you need to know how to go about doing that. And,
right.
And I really appreciate the fact he's talking about this. Obviously, in this particular thing, he's talking home care, but in any organization, obviously the quality care, you can go by complaints and customer service reviews and things like that to determine whether people are doing a good job. So those metrics are easy to measure, and as is turnover.
Right.
So, I think that I like the way he mentioned that forward-thinking talent management leaders closely track these metrics, and they do, and they look for ways to improve them. And I've worked with a company, one particular furniture chain that reduced turnover by 50%.
Wow.
And their industry, that's huge.
That's significant.
But one of the things they said to me was, we think we can do better. They did not rest on their laurels at all. And it doesn't surprise me that they're rated as one of the most desirable employers to work for in their state. But I love the mentality. I love the fact that, yes, we cut turnover by 50%, but I think we can do better.
Let's do better. Yeah, exactly.
And then it wasn't only, hey, how can we do better in reducing turnover, but these other key metrics like, well, how can we increase sales and how can we improve? They look for different ways to improve. And I just think the people that are the best at what they do, business-wise, are actively.
They're not resting on their.
They're not resting on their laurels. They are measuring. They are
yeah.
improving. They are attacking. This is not lip service for them. These companies are not. These are not the ones where it says. What was it? 89% of organizations cite retention as one of the key strategic imperatives, but only 36% say they have a formal retention strategy in place. These are part of that 36%
right.
that not only have something in place, but are actively working on it and actively working to make it improve.
Well, and creating that win-win that is going to help the company grow, but also help their people grow and help them keep those valuable people on the payroll.
So, and the article went on to wrap it up and just basically say, hey, to reduce time to fill, leaders employ new recruitment and marketing practices, build talent pipelines even before they have openings. Look at you go. Just they're copying your ideas. No, this is essential, critical, hard to fill positions, and that's true. Particularly, this is even what we just talked about is even more important in the critical, hard to fill positions.
Yeah.
And the folks in HR know how challenging this can be. A lot of times the folks that are not in HR don't realize how much time, energy, effort, and resources it takes to get a halfway qualified applicant.
Exactly.
And then much less get them trained and developed to the point where they can be more than competent in contributing to the bottom line.
Right.
So, I love these the focus on retention and because a lot of the work about getting someone to the point of being productive, especially with their internal employees, is already done.
Right. Yeah.
Because they already have the institutional knowledge. They already have the understanding of how things work. They already have product knowledge and subject matter experts. And if you're putting them in roles where it allows them to do what they do best and like to do most, that is...
Get them on the path.
That's the path.
Get them on the path.
So anyway, again, I want to give a shout out to Home Care Magazine and David Wilkins, who wrote this article on how to develop leaders for better employee retention. I just think that even though it was for that industry, a lot of the things that he said in this article are relevant for a lot of other industries, and I hope that anyone watching or listening benefits from this article.